All right. Oh, welcome, Dr. Jeanne Beatrix Law, to the Opposite of Cheating podcast.
Thank you so much. This is exciting for me.
We've never met until today,
Correct.
but we are in a common LinkedIn community and have read and responded to each other's posts. So it's a pleasure. I have said this on the podcast before that a lot of the folks that I end up interviewing in this series have been just people I've met through LinkedIn. So I do love that community and being able to connect with people that you might not otherwise ever meet, right? You're a professor of English. We wouldn't travel in the same conference circles
Great.
or anything else. So thank you for joining me. Let's start by giving people a bit more information about you, about who you are and what you do and in the context in which you do it.
Yeah, sure. Glad to. So, I'm a professor of English at Kennesaw State University. We are a public university with about 45,000 undergraduate and graduate students in the state of Georgia. We're the third largest university in the state. I was a WPA at Kennesaw State for 8 years. I have now rolled into another role at Kennesaw State beginning in August. I'll be coordinating our new graduate certificate in AI and writing technologies. So super exciting stuff happening at KSU. But even in the before AI time, when I think about how I approached the classroom, democratic pedagogue, critical pedagogue, really drawing on a lot of the works of bell hooks, drawing on civil rights movements, specifically ones that happened in Atlanta, which is my hometown. I'm a third generation native Atlantan. So drawing a lot on those types of theoretical frameworks and practice frameworks. And so that's just kind of what I do. I teach first year comp, I teach upper division, and I teach graduate students at Kennesaw State. And I also love to research how students are engaging with new technologies,
Mhm.
and then what they're using those new technologies for in their personal and professional lives.
Fantastic. So a couple of things. I think I want to just tease out a bit. You said I formerly was WPA. I think you mean writing program administrator, maybe?
I do. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to spell that out for our audience in case they didn't know what that
Right.
meant and make sure I was correct in my interpretation. And I think it's unusual. You said you teach like intro comp classes and graduate students. That's kind of unusual, isn't it?
We're a large university and we have faculty and administrators who have this commitment to do this. Our provost just wrote a piece for Inside Higher Ed where he
Mhm.
talked about the importance of administrators also being great teachers. And so that's just kind of part of our university culture that if you're an
Great.
administrator, you are teaching in your program. So
Nice.
I love teaching first year composition.
Yeah. Even still, even
Yeah.
in the age of AI.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm teaching a pilot Affordable Learning Georgia English 1102 in the fall. We're running 10 sections of it. I built an AI assistant for it. And
Okay.
we actually have funding from our university system to test this and to work with students in English 1102, which for us is a research-based first year writing course. So I'm very excited to continue looking at ways we can shift that narrative from generative AI, first year students cheating, and those three phrases always ending up together, and shifting that narrative towards something else.
Okay. We'll get into that in a second. Before we do, because that you mentioned the word cheating, but of course, for us, the opposite of cheating is learning and learning with integrity, because you can't really learn if you're not bringing your full self to it and doing it honestly and in a trustworthy way. So I like to ask everybody, what's your memory of your first kind of encounter or experience or learning about academic integrity? Was it as a student? Was it as a professor? When did that happen for you?
It was as a teaching assistant in graduate school. And I love this question because I hadn't thought about this in a really long time. So I had to go back and think about it and write down some of my thoughts about it. I'm a second career academic. So I come out of the non-government organization and government
Mm,
industries when it comes to policy writing and speech writing.
okay.
So when I came to academia, I came as like a non-traditional student in my mid 30s.
Ah,
Was a TA, teaching assistant, and you know, I had never taught in my life. And I'm reading and reading and reading, and we had kind of a standardized curriculum. I spotted like two paragraphs, I guess, that kind of read like a Wikipedia time capsule. And this
Yeah.
is like this is like 2010, right?
Right.
And so, I kind of had this choice, I suppose, in that moment. It's like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm doing this. And so I could have just put down this plagiarism hammer because they said, that's one of the options that we all had when they gave us our teaching course. But instead, just on a whim, really. I can't really take credit for anything intellectual about it. It was really on a whim. I just kind of sent the student that late night email and invited that student to kind of like a source sleuthing meeting. And
Hmm.
when we met, it was in my office. We didn't do Zoom back in 2010. And so they came in and I had this aha moment because the student actually said, I didn't understand how to do citations. And so I just thought it would be easier if I took this from a site that had a citation because I felt like it was probably a
Hmm.
credible site. And I
Hmm.
didn't really think about cheating. And the idea that it was confusion instead of corruption led me to have this little post-it note on my share, and I had a shared office with like 7 other TAs.
Right.
And I had a
As
little
one
post-it
does,
note.
yes.
Yes, exactly. Windowless, exactly. I
Yeah.
had a little post-it note on there until I graduated, which was basically, confusion before corruption. And
Mm.
that's what I should assume just from that one encounter. And from then on, I've just kind of kept that as kind of my own personal thought process.
Mm-hmm. That's the first time I ever heard somebody phrase it like that, confusion ahead of corruption. So does that mean that you are would somebody call you naive about what kind of corruption does go on in higher ed, or that it's just a philosophy that you take a stand on knowing that you might have to move past that sometimes?
Sure. Yeah, naive is a word that has been lobbed my way. Uncritical is another.
On what?
Uncritical is another
Oh, okay.
in my uncritical integration of AI. That was an interesting one. And
Okay.
I understand that everyone kind of comes from different views and I'm a middle ground person. My grandmother always said that the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And so I hear all of these different perspectives and I like to think that I'm pretty decent at pivoting when I need to.
Great.
But I'm also kind of one of those folks that's not necessarily in the middle when I think about what others think about cheating. I would always, I think, view cheating, and this might be naive, as just even if it is corruption and not confusion, right?
Okay.
There's got to be a reason for that.
Oh,
And I
there always
don't
a reason.
know
Yeah.
what that student is bringing with them
Yeah.
every day to that classroom.
Yeah.
I know I told you I teach at a research university, but 40% of our students at KSU are first generation. I mean, I have
Right.
students who literally choose between paying the utility bill and driving to campus.
Yeah.
And so, as somebody who never experienced that, I think it's incumbent upon me to always assume that
Mm.
and to always try to approach it with enough empathy. Um, and I don't know if this will be an unpopular opinion or not, but I have never turned a student in to any academic integrity office for cheating or plagiarism.
Well, that's I don't know if it'll be unpopular. It would put me out of a job, I suppose. So unpopular maybe with me, but well, so this is the conversation that I have with or people who use writing as an assessment of learning,
Yeah.
is that it is oftentimes harder to tell the difference between confusion and corruption in writing versus the kid had their cell phone out during the exam and they were copying answers from it into their exam, right? That's not
Yep.
confusion.
Right.
Nobody would say to you, "Oh, I thought I could do that," right? So, but sloppy authorship, all of our conventions around citations and all of that kind of thing, which it's very academic, it's very confusing, especially the way we explain it. I actually don't think citation is that confusing. I think the way we explain it is confusing, and the formatting stuff we add to it makes it really intimidating.
Mhm.
But there is a lot of wiggle room there. And I think this brings us to kind of a crux of a conversation about what you said earlier about you want to move the conversation away from AI and cheating to AI and something else. Connecting my thought here that when it's writing and you're focused on teaching writing, so not using writing as a vehicle for demonstrating knowledge and so sure chem, forget that for a second. When you're teaching writing, you're teaching a process. And so often you're allowing drafts and rewrites and rewrites and rewrites. And so I would say to a writing instructor in those circumstances, don't turn them in for an integrity violation in a draft,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a draft. That's
Right.
where they're supposed to be able to fail safely and get a chance to redo. Now, if you continually address the issue and then it still shows up in their final and you have to grade that, you can't grade it, right? So that might be a different story. So talk to me more about this, because I know you're a fan of process over products. I know that you are a fan of assuming confusion over corruption. So talk to me more about what that looks like in the age of AI, because you already said that you are incorporating AI into writing composition courses.
Mm-hmm.
So
So,
just tell us more about that.
okay. So what it looks like for me as someone who is a contract grader, some people call it ungrading. Uh,
Mm,
I negotiate products with students.
okay.
And then we have our rhetorical behaviors, which are the process. I
Okay.
understand that, like you said, you're absolutely right. Writing can be really squishy. And in first year composition, and as a writing program administrator, I totally get this. We have learning outcomes, right? We have certain assignment types that we expect our
Mhm.
students to be able to come out of English 1101, 1102 understanding how to do.
Right.
I get that. But the academic freedom of giving an instructor the opportunity just to have very general, measurable learning outcomes with
Mhm.
general assignment types allows that faculty member to negotiate with students in a
Okay.
first year composition course, right? Because that conversation looks different in first year composition than it does in an upper division course, and
Mhm.
especially in a graduate level course where we
Yes.
know that students are writers. They're there to write. That's
Yes.
what they're there to do.
Yes.
So in first year composition, particularly, I think it really is, meeting students where they are, but also meeting faculty where they are. And the way we did that at KSU is by making sure that we had measurable rhetorical behaviors as learning outcomes in place. But we gave a
Okay.
great deal of latitude for folks to negotiate with students. So for instance, if
How
we
to demonstrate
right,
that
how to
behavior.
demonstrate that behavior,
Okay.
right? So
So what's a
yeah.
rhetorical behavior as an
um,
example
so
for the
a good
non-writing comp folks?
Sure. So like for English 1102, typically English 1102 is a research-based course.
Okay.
That's pretty standard across the field.
Okay.
So if one of the learning outcomes is to evaluate reliable source material, let's
Okay.
say. All right. So there are lots of ways to get to that learning
Yeah.
outcome. And there are prescriptive ways to get there. Thou
Mhm.
shalt write an annotated bibliography about this topic with this, all of that stuff.
Oh.
Or we could say, record a video where you talk about these types of sources and how you did a screen recording. We had a student who did this really great thing where she actually screen recorded herself
Hmm.
looking for sources
Oh.
and actually did a talk aloud protocol without realizing that it was a talk aloud protocol. It was amazing. It
Mm.
gave me an idea to do an empirical research project because it was just like this really cool, like screen recording of her saying, my topic is this. I think it was obesity, I think, in younger children and gaming and trying to connect those things, if I remember correctly. And she actually did a screen recording of her finding the sources, Googling the sources, going to our library and finding those sources from library databases. That was her artifact.
And she verbalized while she was doing
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
because that's pretty high order. I mean, that's some metacognition there. I wonder if most students would be able to do that, but I love the idea because again, that's helping them with their metacognition, thinking about their thinking and being very aware of their process, which many students are not very aware of their process.
I do think that students talk like I know that I did as a student. We talk to ourselves, I think, more than we think we do. At least my
No,
partner
no, no. I
did
talk to
that.
my dog, Jeannie. It's not myself I'm talking to, it's my
Right.
dog.
My spouse will
Yes.
come in he's like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And I realize that I have been talking to myself.
Yes.
Um, but I would say that kind of I think what I would love to do is be able to show other students,
Yeah.
kind of think through what that looks like and say, hey, this is a type of assignment that we can do. I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, but I think that that certainly is something that is a higher end way to do this in terms of
Yeah.
metacognition. On the lower end of metacognition, you could also get to those same rhetorical behaviors by having a student do, an annotated bibliography form, or you give them the template, you give them the tilted assignment with all of the things they need, but give them choice of topic or give them choice of
Right.
style or citation style or whatever it is. So there are lots of different ways to negotiate that choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my biggest point with that, and what I have found in my years of teaching and researching and being an administrator, is students want to value, they do overarching. You're always going to have cheaters. We had cheaters before AI. We had
Yeah.
Chegg. We had folks who got their partners to write their essays. I mean, you're never
Yeah.
going to have 100%, right? But what I will say is that when students value not just the process, but they value what they're doing, they're engaged. And
Yeah.
engaged students are far less likely to cheat.
Yes. Yes. And David and I talk about that in our
Yes.
book, right? We talk
Yep.
about intrinsic motivation,
Yep.
and all the ways in which we can engage students. And again, I think you used an acronym there that I want to spell it for the audience. You said tilted. So I think you mean the
Ah,
transparency and
I
learning and
do.
teaching. You mean
Yes.
tilt. Yeah. So
Yes.
folks, I'll include that website in the show notes for folks in case they hadn't heard of that before. And so, yes, giving students different choice of control is a huge, huge way to increase engagement. Um, and giving students that choice of control over topic, again, can be overwhelming though for first year students. And so maybe first year students, you give them a list and
Mhm.
but tell them they can go beyond it if they want. But you give them a
Mhm.
list, but grad students, no list, you do, right? And so sometimes we need to scaffold some of these things because they're not used to having choice control, right? It can be overwhelming for them to choose. Have you noticed that or no?
I think with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, we might be seeing a shift in that as well.
Okay.
And I think that's because I'm going to be the person who says it for the millionth time today, COVID. Because we were all learning at home, we were all learning virtually.
Mm,
Many of us who had not taught online before were still trying to figure out how to do this. Many who had
mhm.
not learned online before were trying to learn how to learn online. And I think so. I think choice came as an accident. But one of the things I have noticed about first year writers who are just now coming in, who have graduated during COVID, is that they are very used to not just flexible topics, but flexible deadlines.
Well, yes.
They are very used to that. So I
Yes.
think they had an enormous amount of choice
Yes.
when they were coming through those online courses in high
Yes.
school.
They did. That's true. That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. We think again about choice in the kind of the deficit way when it comes to flexibility of deadlines. Like, oh, you mean I can't just take my final exam whenever I want? I'm not allowed to book my flight even though I know on Monday, even though I know my finals on Friday. What do you mean? Right?
Right.
Yes. But I hadn't thought about it in terms of having choice doesn't overwhelm them maybe like it would have for a previous generation. Interesting.
But I could see how that would. And because we have a pretty decent percentage of first generation students, I
Yeah.
think that our instructors, and we have more than 100 instructors who teach first year writing, and they're of all
Yeah.
ranks and employment statuses at KSU. And so, we have that with 10,000 students, over 100 faculty members. We hear lots of stories of
Mm,
the different levels that students are, the different skills they're bringing, skills they're not bringing.
mhm,
But that's one I have heard kind of as a trend that they are bringing. They're
mhm.
not bringing a lot of organization. That's something that
No,
has not been brought.
no, no.
But the idea of choice they are bringing with
Okay.
them, really.
So choice control is one way to increase engagement slash intrinsic motivation. The other thing, of course, we hear a lot about are meaningful or authentic assessments, and of course, giving them choice control can help make those meaningful, authentic. But also this connects to AI. So, right, the conversation a lot in writing, especially writing comp, is should we be teaching students how to write without AI? Because we know that novices can use tools differently than experts. And do we need to scaffold that in? But yet we also know that students are interested in AI and anything to do with AI, they're probably going to find engaging and meaningful. So you said you are actually introducing AI into that writing composition class for freshmen.
Yes.
So tell us more about that.
we have data to back that up.
Okay.
So we ran, and this is you can check this out in the Computers and Composition digital press. It should be
Mm,
coming out in the next couple of weeks, and if it comes out soon, I'll certainly be more than happy to send it to you because I think
yeah.
it'll be open access. But
Okay.
we started in fall of 2023 at Kennesaw State surveying incoming first year writers. And we did it for 2023 and
Okay.
2024. And so in 2023, a quarter of students coming in, and our number was right around 1,700 students, 1,708, I think was the number. So a decent representation, a little
Mhm.
more than 10% of our student body. So 25% of them were like, yeah, I already use AI in my academic writing.
Right.
They were willing to admit to. This
Yeah.
is an anonymous
Yes.
survey,
They spent
right?
more were using it. Yeah.
Right. And in 2024, that number went up to 40%. And so I'm thinking, okay, different cohort of students, right? They're
Hmm.
using it more and more. And then we see, and take OpenAI for what you will, but the OpenAI usage data telling us that, a third or more of college students
Well,
are
and the
using the
fact that they're giving it away to them helps a lot.
It does help. That certainly helps. So I think that, I think that students are using it, and I think they're using it more than they're willing to admit. But because we have this data, and we also had data that, in 2023, 70% of our students surveyed said they thought AI was the future of writing. In 2024, 80% of them said that.
The future of writing.
Future of writing. They
Okay.
also had some very nuanced thoughts on cheating because we
Okay.
asked them those questions. And it was interesting because we used the word cheating instead of the word plagiarism, even though our target demographic was first year writing students.
Yeah.
Those students used plagiarism, answering that qualitative part of the question more than they used the word cheating.
Mm.
They also were very apprehensive in general. Like there were like four main trends that came out of that qualitative data. They were apprehensive about repercussions of
Yes.
being falsely accused.
Sure.
And that's a big deal for first gen students who already suffer from maybe not having a sense of belonging,
Right.
right? To be falsely accused, we could lose that student forever, and they're just not going to come to university
Yeah.
because they already have this feeling they don't belong
Feeling
there.
like a fraud. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so our students were concerned about that. They also had a desire for clear guidelines, and they felt like they weren't getting those clear guidelines. And they were frustrated over the ambiguity of, well, it's okay in this class, it's not okay in this class, it's okay in this use case, but not in
Assignment.
this case. Somebody explain it to me, please. And
Mm-hmm.
they wanted that.
Yeah.
We're testing this out with 10 sections.
Okay.
And what we've done is we're using Microsoft Copilot because
Mhm.
at Kennesaw State, students already have that.
Right.
And the version we have is behind our FERPA wall, we
Yeah.
call it. So
Yep.
the data doesn't go out into the world, which
Yep.
makes me feel better about using it. So I built a Copilot agent that is just almost like a custom GPT,
Yep.
right? It is just the knowledge base of the textbook
Yep.
and our PowerPoints that we're using for the class. And it's all in there. And it's an instructional assistant for students. And in the first week of class, we have videos and a podcast where we're actually showing and teaching the students how to use the agent. Like, here's what it will do, here's what it won't do. And when I recorded the video, and when I say, here's what it won't do, it won't write your papers for you. And let me
Right.
show you why. And I keep trying to do it. Please write this for me. Please do this for me. And I'm like, this would be an unethical use case anyway, and you would be cheating yourself. So
Yeah.
don't do it. So we're
Yeah.
kind of hoping, and we're doing surveys throughout the semester with the students to try to figure out where they start from and where they end
Nice.
terms of their preferences. And it is certainly all attitudinal,
Yeah.
self-reported. But I think it'll give us some keen insights into what's really going on in first year writing classes at just, large universities, and maybe it's scalable to other institutions
Yeah.
as well.
So a couple of things. Awesome. We have here at UC San Diego, we have Triton GPT. So they built their own GPT. So we're not using the external vendors. And we're piloting instructional assistant and student assistant. So yeah, I love those custom bots that we can do because they're so narrowly trained and then they're more accurate and you can yeah, have it do Socratic pushback rather than, yes, let me write your paper for you. Yeah. So that's great. Of course, one, students can't be forced to use your custom bot. So if they do, you might be guiding them in the right way. If they don't, they could still be getting AI to write their papers for them, of course. When uh, you're asking them survey questions, are you also able to look at their interactions behind the scenes, even if it's anonymized? What kinds of questions were students asking? Are you going to be analyzing their interactions with the bot?
So that is something we're not doing in this particular pilot,
Okay.
because we're using Microsoft Copilot
And so
instead
you
of
can't.
ChatGPT, and we don't have an API for it. So we're kind of just using the front end
Okay.
of Microsoft Copilot. But what I will say also is that because this is about student choice, the instructional assistant is completely optional.
Sure.
And if
Of
students
course.
want
Yeah.
to matriculate through the class and not use it at all, that's cool. We do have several AI literacy videos that we talk about throughout the semester. And my only ask of students is that they are able to articulate why they choose to use it or why
Yeah.
they choose not to use
Yeah.
it. And to me, that feeds AI fluency, really, is knowing
Sure.
enough about it to say, yeah, I'm not gonna, or yes, I am. And so we're trying to build on that as well. And we've had a lot of luck with that in our grad program. So I'm kind of hoping we can scale that back, for undergrads as
Yeah.
well.
So are you having students disclose whether they used your AI bot or AI in general or not at all?
Not at all.
Okay. No disclosure.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
We have them write sustainability statements, which is going to be interesting. This is the first semester that I've tried to do this. I do this in my own work, where we're asking students to take some of the new MIT data and run it through Microsoft Copilot and get some general answers about how much energy they're using, how much CO2 they're
Yes.
using, how much water they're using from their prompting. So we're trying to really kind of
Interesting.
um, get that in the mix just as a no stakes opportunity for them to see where they are.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Measuring their own kind of carbon footprint, so to speak.
And this is an OER class. So this is being funded by a program called Affordable Learning Georgia, which our university system office does statewide. So once we get the bugs worked out of it, in December, we'll write our final
Will be
report, and then
published.
our system office will release it out to Galileo, and people can take it and adapt it and do whatever they want with it.
Awesome. And will that include your video and your, yep, awesome.
Everything. We
Great.
we really believe that if we're going to do something, we do it OER, and we want everybody to have access and be able to do something with it.
We're all in this together, right? Like this is
Yeah.
we have to help each other out. Okay,
Right.
so thank you for spending that much time on this with me because I think those, especially who teach writing and writing comp, are going to be interested, and so I really appreciate you sharing all that. I think I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think I would skip my next question, which is what have you learned in having to respond to an integrity violation? Because you kind of already covered that, is that you learned to treat it as confusion and not corruption, but that you're ready to pivot if the evidence shows you, for example, a student was actually contract cheating the whole way and they didn't write any of their papers. Great. Okay. So any last piece of advice? I know you've read the book, and I know you've been working on a lot of different things. So any last piece of advice you have for whether writing instructors or any instructor of teaching for integrity in the age of AI?
I think it's important to trust students first. And if there's a reason not to trust, I get that. But I think that embracing the idea of trust and empathy first is important. But I also would say that as for administrators, administrators also have to meet faculty where they are, and administrators have to understand that if we have TAs, we have non-tenure track folks. We have part-time colleagues teaching these classes, and oftentimes they're teaching a 4-5 load or a 5-5 load, which basically means they're teaching 10 classes a year. Um, you know,
Mm,
they're scared, and we have a responsibility to meet them where they are too.
yes. Yes.
That doesn't have as much
Ex
to do with
No,
your
it
book, which I
does. No,
love
it
your book.
does.
But I mean,
Because
it's just
no, it does, Jeannie, because, in our book, it is directed at instructors, but we have advice for institutional leadership in there too.
yes, that's
And
true.
I have been saying in every podcast that I do and every presentation I do, we need to provide faculty, the instructors with time, training, and support. We can't continue to ask them to rebuild the plane while they're flying it. It's not fair. They're burnt out. And we need to treat them as valuable humans that work with us and for us, and not as machines who can just keep churning out new stuff. So I think that deserves an exclamation point, and it's a good one to end on. So thank you, Dr. Jeanne Law, for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing this conversation with others.
Thank you, and David for the book. It's amazing.
Oh,
It
thank you.
it is really, it's transformative the way you all write it, the way you frame it. It's just it's beautiful.
Well,
Thank
thank you. I'll give David all the credit for all the pithy things that are in there. As I told somebody the other day, it's somebody said, "Oh, and this part and this part." I said, "Oh, that was David." If it was funny and pithy and sarcastic, it was David for sure.
I love it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Jean.
much for including me.
Of course.